Hello everyone, DM Dungeon Mastery here with Dewey the Cat. Today, I'm back. I finally figured out a way how to get my video editing software to where I don't have to pay an egregious price for a subscription service, which is what I did not want to do, which is why you haven't seen me for a couple months with videos. I've done live streams, but if you haven't been there, you're probably like, where's DM Dungeon Mastery? I'm still here. I'm just floating through the void that is life. But I'm back, so I want to do a video today going over a couple of my Neanderthal stat blocks that I made because I had a lot of fun making these. So we're going to start off here quick and dirty. We're just going to go through these pretty decently fast, and we're just going to go over a couple things that I think is fun. So if you're running like a prehistoric campaign with dinosaurs and all your player characters are cavemen or something like that, these guys fit right in. Or let's say you discover a magical island that has been lost to time and civilization hasn't really developed there. These Neanderthals could fit into a place like that, or you can find them deep in a cave. So let's start off the video with the first Neanderthal stat block from DM Dungeon Mastery. Okay, so obviously we have to start off with a simple stat block. This is meant for incredibly low level characters, or this could just be, you know, a commoner. If you walk into a caveman cave and you want to say that they have stuff to sell, or you need to interact with some really low level NPCs, this just basic Neanderthal Commoner fills that niche for you. So let's go over this one just really quickly. It's super simple, nothing to write home about. AC of 10, 5 hit points. The hit points don't really matter because this is a minion stat block, and I'll get into that in a second. So, you know, 13 strength. I feel like primitive humans were a little stronger. They were more broad in terms of just their body type, I feel like. So I think that it makes sense that they have like a higher strength than a normal commoner. But if you see moving down the line, like their constitution is a little higher than a regular commoner too, but their intelligence and their charisma is very low compared to a normal, you know, just human commoner. They are pretty dumb compared to that because they're primitive. So these are clocked in at tier 1. Now, looking back at these, I think that I might start making stuff that is tier 0, and that's going to be to represent things that are meant to be CR like 1/4. Anything under CR 1, I might make a tier 0 for that. Excuse me. I have a lot of burpees going on. I don't know what's going on with me. So let's move into the special traits here, shall we? We have pack tactics. Pretty simple, self-explanatory. It has advantage on attack rolls against a creature if an ally is within 5 feet of the target and it is not incapacitated, that being the ally. And here's where minion comes in. Damage from attacks or failed saves kills the minion. Other damage kills it only if it equals or exceeds its max hit points. Otherwise, it takes no damage. So it pretty much goes down in one hit from any weapon. Pretty simple, pretty simplistic. Moving into the actions, they have a club and a rock that they can hit you or throw at you. Pretty basic, super simple Neanderthal stat block. Now they get more interesting, I swear, because I had a lot of fun making these, but you always got to make a really, really low level one, because you just got to have that for those level 1 characters, or God forbid you run level 0 characters in D&D 5e, which would be really cool. So let's move on to the next one. Okay, so the next one are the Neanderthal Hunters. Primitive humans were hunter-gatherers, so that's where I kind of got this from. These are the hunters. These are the ones that go out with the spears and they hunt animals and stuff like that. Or they get eaten by a T-Rex, whatever nature decides is in store for them. So these guys actually have hide armor, which is probably about the peak of Neanderthal armor. I don't see them having anything other than hide, because that makes sense, right? They're Neanderthals. They have a stealth skill proficiency now, and they also have the ambusher trait, which means they have attack rolls versus creatures that it has surprised. So let's look at their weapon now. They have a primitive spear instead of a club. So they can stab with it, which is, you know, regular spear, but their pack tactics special attack is called Mammoth Gutter. And what this does is when they hit you with this attack, it does a D8 piercing damage, and as long as you are huge or smaller, you're going to take an ongoing 1d8 piercing damage over time for 1 minute, unless somebody makes a medicine check with a healer's kit on you, or until you receive magical healing. So a DC 10 medicine check with a healer's kit is required to bandage the wound from Mammoth Gutter. Now, if you can cause the Neanderthals to spread out via fear, something that gets them to spread out, that is how you really nerf their damage output. But, you know, they're not really that hardy in terms of hit points, so it's going to be a little harder to benefit from making them spread out. You might just want to knock them down quick rather than try to spread them out. But that's how you weaken them. You divide them and conquer them. And then they also have primitive javelins. These are just backup sticks that they can throw to drop a mammoth. And it's going to take a lot of these guys to drop a mammoth. So let's move on to the next one. Alright, so the next one is the Neanderthal Brute. This is more of a elite mob enemy. This is like a really hardy version of the Neanderthal. These are the ones that are actually pretty scary. So if you run into these, you're probably going to have 1 or 2 of them in a pack of Neanderthals. So this one has 19 hit points. It has a saving throw proficiency with strength. Its strength and con is a little bit higher. They also have survival skill proficiency, which the regular Neanderthal also had. I forgot to mention that. They all speak primitive also, so wanted to put that out there. Now, the traits are the same, other than endurance now replaces the minion rule, which endurance just states that if you knock it to 0 hit points, it makes a con save, and if it succeeds that con save, it drops to 1 unless the attack was a critical hit or from a magic weapon. So, you know, it's a pretty cool thing. It keeps them standing. They're sort of like a barbarian, but not really that strong. And then let's get into the actions here. These guys carry a great club. So how do you make a club more dangerous? You just make it bigger. So we have Smash, and then we have Brutal Crush. Now, the interesting thing with Neanderthals that I decided to do was when Pack Tactics is active, they gain access to a more powerful ability. So they literally are stronger when they are around their allies. So you'll see Brutal Crush can only be used when Pack Tactics is active, but this does 1d10 on a hit, and if you are medium or smaller, you have to make a con save, and if you fail that, you are dazed. So you get a -1 on everything until you receive magical healing or the end of your next turn. And then they also have a rock. So pretty simple, just a brute force creature to deal with for your lower level parties. Still, these aren't super strong, but in a group they might be pretty deadly with Pack Tactics, being that they can use Brutal Crush. So let's get into the next one. Okay, so this next one is kind of a funny play on words. Some people were a little confused by the name Inventor. So this is a Neanderthal Inventor, and it's funny because they're still stupid, they're still primitive, so his intelligence is 8 instead of the 7, so slightly smarter than the average Neanderthal. These ones have a little bit higher hit points with 16, they have a bloodied condition, interestingly, and they have an intelligence saving throw proficiency, so that does show that they use their smart brain for more than just hit thing with rock. So these ones have Survival Instinct as a special trait, and what Survival Instinct does is it gives them +2 to their armor class when they are bloodied. So let's get into the actions here. These Neanderthals have a bow instead of a spear, and they also have an axe. So they have their stone axes and they have primitive bows. So their attack is just a regular hack attack, but they also have Hamstring Hew, which is their Pack Tactics ability, and if they hit you with this, if you're medium or smaller, you have to make a DC 13 con save or you are hamstrung. And what that does is it reduces your movement speed by 5 feet until you receive magical healing, and this does stack cumulatively. So they can hit you with a stacking debuff that reduces your movement speed by 5 feet every time they hit you with it, which is pretty, if it stacks up on you a lot, that's really bad. You can say that if you take a rest it gets rid of that, but I think having somebody do some sort of medicine check should be required at the minimum. Let's go into primitive bow. You know, it's just a primitive bow. Does D8. They have ranged attack. Now here's where the funny part comes in. The wheel. This is literally the Neanderthal taking a stone wheel and rolling it. They have an attack with it called innovative rolling. They roll the stone wheel in a 5-foot wide, 10-foot long line. Each medium or smaller creature in that line has to make a DC 15 dex save or it falls prone. So it doesn't take damage, but it's a way for it to, you know, use a creative ability that knocks a bunch of things prone in a line. And it doesn't go very far. It's only 10 feet. But it's just a funny ability for a Neanderthal, I thought. So I hope you like that one. Let's keep moving. We got a couple more here. In this next one, I know you guys like my Horde stat blocks, so of course I made a Neanderthal Horde. This is a Neanderthal tribe, so this counts as a large group of Neanderthals. This is something that you could throw against a higher level party so they can feel like badasses carving through a bunch of Neanderthals, though you know, they might also feel bad because what did these Neanderthals do to them? They don't understand them. There's people coming in with magic spells and blowing things up with fireball, and they're just wanton slaughtering groups of Neanderthals. How dare they? The Horde has saving throw proficiency with strength and con. They have the damage vulnerabilities of a Horde, so if it's an area of effect or if it's a multi-target attack or a spell, they take double the damage from that to show that you're hitting multiple people within the Horde. And then their resistances are obviously single target attacks and spells, so you know, fire bolt is only going to do half damage. Narratively, you're still hitting one guy, but you're not damaging the whole Horde as much as you could be. And then they have immunities to, you know, anything that would affect a singular creature. Charmed, frightened, grappled, paralyzed, petrified, prone, stunned. You can stun a single character, but you can't stun an entire group of Neanderthals or people. And this is a tier 3 threat rating here, so they have the Horde rules. They can occupy another creature's space, move through openings large enough for a medium humanoid. It's immune to effects that alter its form, and it cannot regain hit points or gain temporary hit points. Pretty self-explanatory with that one. That's on all of my Horde stat blocks. This is a pretty simple one to run. They have overwhelming mass, so they have advantage on attack rolls against creatures they share a space with. And then they have reactive. They can take one reaction on every turn in combat. Pretty easy to use. And then the actions, we have 4 melee or ranged attacks, and then if you get it down to bloodied, it can only make 2 attacks a turn instead of 4. So we have the primitive spears, we have primitive javelins, and the Horde action is the interesting stuff. So we have many spear strike, and this is each large or smaller creature in the Horde space has to make a DC 21 dex save. On a failure, you're going to take a whopping 8d6 piercing damage. However, if you get the Horde down to bloodied, it's only a DC 17 save now, and you're only going to take 4d6. Now that's still a lot more damage, but you know. And if you succeed the save for either of those, you take only half damage. That's just to show that you're in the middle of a Horde, you're being surrounded and assailed from all sides. There's a bunch of guys stabbing down on you, jabbing into you. It's hard to avoid that. Anybody, doesn't matter if you're a fully armored knight in full plate mail, if there are 30 guys attacking you at once, all surrounding you, you're gonna get hurt eventually. And then we have hunting volley. This is to represent, you know, maybe a group of Neanderthals hunting a mammoth or something. So they launch a volley of javelins, and then it does a 10-foot radius up to 80 feet away. Each creature in that radius has to make a dex save. If they fail, they're going to take 8d6 piercing. If the Horde is bloodied, they're only going to take 4d6, and the save also goes down. So pretty self-explanatory. That's a fast, easy one to run against your players. I like that one myself, so let's move into the next one because we're not done yet. Okay, so there is no Neanderthal tribe leader because I thought it would be more badass to have a Neanderthal mammoth rider in place of that. So this guy can kind of count as your tribe leader. So these guys have a whopping 44 hit points. You know, that's a pretty decent high amount. And then their skills are going to have animal handling. They have an athletics skill, stealth, survival. So these guys are like the top of the echelon of a Neanderthal, other than the Neanderthal Inventor, of course. He's the best. But he has pack tactics. He has one with mount. While he's mounted, the Neanderthal's Mammoth benefits from pack tactics. So that gives the Mammoth advantage on attack rolls as well. And he has a cavalier fighting style. He has advantage on saves made to avoid falling off his mount. If he falls no more than 10 feet, he lands on his feet. He has a thing called tall mount. While he's on the Mammoth, he ignores disadvantage penalty for ranged attacks within 5 feet of a creature if the target is medium or smaller, but it can only make melee attacks against creatures of large size or bigger. So he can't jab down to reach things that are medium size, is basically what that's saying. But if he uses ranged attacks, he doesn't get disadvantage because he's so high up on the Mammoth's back. So let's look at his weapons that he has here. He has a primitive harpoon, which he has throw, 2d6 piercing, so it's a great sword, but it's a ranged great sword damage. And then he has target weak spot while pack tactics is active, so as long as he's on his Mammoth, this is going to be active. It deals 3d6 piercing damage, and if you are huge or smaller, you're going to take a d6 piercing damage at the start of each of your turns for 1 minute, unless somebody makes a medicine check against you to patch the wound up. So pretty self-explanatory. And then he has primitive spear, which has a stab attack, and then he also has a mounted thrust attack, which he can use while mounted. He can use the spear only while he's mounted, so he can reach down with the spear, but he can't do that with a harpoon, basically. So it says while mounted, he could deal 2d10 piercing damage. Now I know that contradicts the tall mount thing, so I might have to change that, I just realized, but you know, he's on a woolly mammoth. That's his mount. He's pretty badass. So obviously we're gonna have to get into the final thing here, which is a woolly mammoth, obviously. So here's a little bonus stat block to go in with the Neanderthal pack here. We have a woolly mammoth. He's got an AC of 13, nothing to write home about, but a whopping 126 hit points. It can move at 40 feet a turn. It has 24 strength, 21 con. It doesn't have any special skills or anything, but it does have trampling charge. If it moves at least 20 feet straight towards a creature, then hits it with a gore attack on the same turn, that creature is going to take an extra 2d6 piercing damage. And then if the target is prone, the mammoth can make one stomp attack as a bonus action. This thing is very scary, very deadly. It's super simplistic and straightforward, but it does a ton of damage. So it has tusks, which it could gore you with. Those do 4d8 piercing damage, and then if you were medium or smaller, you have to make a strength save or you get knocked prone. So that's the first thing that's really scary. And then the second thing that's really scary are with its feet. It has stomp. It can only use this though on prone creatures. So it does 4d10 bludgeoning damage, and you have to make a DC 18 con save or you are stunned until the end of your next turn, because a mammoth pressing down on your chest, potentially shattering your rib cage, I think that warrants a stun. So that's gonna do it for the Neanderthals. I think they cover a pretty decent little niche in the D&D department. You're not gonna be able to just throw these in wherever you want, but in the off chance that you do need Neanderthals or cavemen, these guys fit the bill pretty well. So I have been DM Dungeon Mastery. Thank you for joining me. I wanted to do a quick little thank you and shout out to my patrons here. So I haven't vocally shown thanks to my Patreon subscribers since I opened my Patreon. I usually put a little thing at the end of the videos to thank you guys, but I want to actually go through and thank each and every one of you individually. So we have Auric, Callum P. Burt, Frank Sierre, Kieran Albestigui de Boy. Sorry, your name is very complicated. We have Kyle Webb, RackAge24 Gaming Channel, Spencer, Tank Master 810000, We have Tyler Fartini, Tyler S, Valen, Victor. Those are all of my merchant subscribers, so I thank you guys so much for supporting the channel. I don't know how I could do this stuff without you guys. You guys literally humble me so much. I love all of you. And then of course we have my Wanderer tiers here. We have Ben Soares, Caleb Ellis, Dragon Boy XYZ 230, Michael Murphy, and Panzerino. Thank all of you guys so much, and everybody else that is on my Patreon as just a free member. Thank you for being a member of my Patreon, and of course my Discord channel link will be in the description. I'm active in there daily. You can talk to me, ask me questions, anything like that. I am always around. I'm also running Shadow Dark games for people that are interested in playing Shadow Dark. A little bit of a wait list for that one because I have a lot of people that are in the server for that, but if you are interested, you have to send me a DM, and then I'll give you the role, and you'll get invited into the secret clubhouse where you can play Shadow Dark with yours truly. So, thank you guys so much. Sorry it's been so long. I'm back. I'm going to try to start uploading a whole bunch of videos in a short amount of time here, so thank you very much. It's been DM Dungeon Mastery. I'm not saying good night. I'm just saying thank you.